G'day everybody, welcome to the morning of my most recent camp down here in the Fergie Valley in a little bit of a new spot. I haven't been here before, but it's a bloody cool little spot. And in this video, I wanted to give you my 5 top tips for owning a swag. And these are going to give you ideas and hopefully help you if you're new to swag ownership or you might be a seasoned veteran. Hopefully some of these tips can hit home and you can put them into your own swag ownership. So let's go through the 5 top tips, and there might even be a bonus one at the end. It wouldn't be YouTube if there wasn't a bonus tip at the end, wouldn't it now? So let's get into it. So my number 1 tip to start off this video, the stretcher. Now, in the past, I have always slept on the ground with a swag. Doesn't really matter with this particular swag. Even my King's swag that I had, the Big Daddy, which had the big 70mm mattress, one of the earlier ones, not the ones you buy now, but one of the early ones with a real thick mattress. It didn't really matter where I put it, even if I was sleeping on honky nuts or whatever. I always had a really good sleep in it. But in my last video where I said I was jumping onto the swag, getting rid of the rooftop, a lot of people said, get a stretcher, it'll change your life. And I never really believed it until now. So after sleeping in this guy last night, absolutely best sleep I've had in a swag so far. Mainly because I think you're up higher, so you're away from that cold. I'm on rocks, and actually I'm on a rock face at the moment with a bit of moss. It's quite wet. It's been a wet weekend, and normally that would mean a lot of cold and moisture would come from underneath. Now most swags have a PVC base, which is fine, but obviously that doesn't it's not insulated, so it's not going to stop the actual coldness coming up through the swag. So I did really find that it was a lot warmer in there, and I just had a really great sleep. So this particular stretcher, I didn't quite measure it out properly. It's probably a little bit too small for this swag, but it works really well anyway because it sort of sinks me into the middle, so I sort of fall into the middle, which is really good. Mainly because I'm a side sleeper, so I like to sort of be. I feel like I'm a bit cradled in the middle there, which is really nice. But yeah, I've had a fantastic night's sleep in there. It's been really, really good. So really happy when going to the stretcher. And obviously there's other benefits of the stretcher as well. So if you obviously want to use this guy as a chair, you can use the swag as a chair if you really feel like it. So you can sort of jump in there and just enjoy the scenery. So if you forget your chair, you've got a chair anyway, which is your swag. So if you're doing a bit of solo camping, which is what I do a lot, you know, sometimes, you know, I might just forget to chuck the chair in there. So if I had the fire obviously set up and that kind of thing, happy days. At the moment, obviously, I'm using a fire pit, but yeah, it's just one of those things that you can sort of, you know, take away something out of the setup if you don't need to, or if you do feel like if you get the chair, you've got a chair here anyway. And it's really cool, sort of opening up and being nice and high. You're not sort of rolling over and open the swag, and you're on the ground. And if you had a bad night's sleep, then you got to get up, and you know, old people things. Yeah, really thank everyone in the comment section of that video. And yeah, I couldn't believe what I was missing out on. So number 1 tip, get yourself a stretcher, match it to the size of your swag. Some companies do a stretcher on the swag and they obviously all match up. Unfortunately, Ranger didn't do a stretcher, but that's okay. This all worked out fine in the end, and I'm not too stressed. But absolutely, number 1 tip, get yourself a stretcher. So my number 2 tip for owning a swag is, doesn't really matter what sleeping apparatus you're going to use, a tent, a swag, a rooftop tent. You're going to get a thing called condensation, because unfortunately when you breathe out you have a lot of moisture in your breath, and generally when you have all the windows closed on these things, they turn into a bit of a hot box because obviously it's full of the moisture, which is a little bit gross, but that's just what happens, and we're all humans, and unfortunately that's just life. So what do you do to combat the condensation in these swags? Now most swags will come out these little sort of side holes, and you can open them up. They go okay, but depending on the swag, some are really small, some are really big. So to combat that myself, what I actually do is I just leave the fly screen open. So a lot of people are going to go, oh man, it's going to get really cold, you know, the wind and that kind of stuff. Well, there is a key thing you can do to combat that. First off, have a stretcher. Second off, get yourself a electric blanket. So a 12-volt electric blanket. I just got myself ages ago when I had the rooftop tent. It was I think it was from Anaconda. It was like $50. It might have been BCF. I can't remember. Spinifex or whatever that brand is. Wanderer, I think the actual brand was. And it works fantastic. So it's got 45-minute timer. Put it on high just before you're about to go to bed. Crank it on, and you'll come into an absolutely smoking hot swag. You can leave this side open, And obviously get yourself a really good sleeping bag, like a Neg 9, or a really good sleeping bag to obviously for cooler climates, because you don't want to be sleeping in something really thin. You want to be something really cozy. What I actually do with this swag, because obviously I used to have the queen mattress that was up in the rooftop tent. I put the queen mattress in here, and it's like a double up, so it's really thick and cozy in there. Yeah, absolutely. Keep the side open, because you're going to have heaps of airflow. It's going to take all that moisture out. It's not going to be, when you wake up in that stinky swag smell. And the other cool thing as well is when you wake up at like 6 o'clock in the morning, because naturally you generally wake up with the sun when you go camping. You get to see all the cool stuff, like all the kangaroos and like things that are cruising around the bush, things you just wouldn't see normally, because obviously you've got this sort of side open. The other thing as well, if you need to go to the toilet or something like that, it's a one less thing to open up. And if you're like me, every time you put the swag down, you close this fly screen piece, and then you close the other piece, and the zips are always on the wrong side. Mainly because 9 times out of 10, before you go to sleep, you probably had a few too many sherbets, and you're not really thinking about going to the toilet too much. So one less thing to open, and it really gets rid of that condensation. And as I said, you get a really cool view. Like this morning, I've got an absolutely killer view of the bush and looking over this sort of landscape, and I couldn't be happier. So tip number 3 will be, with these swags, pretty much everything on the market is going to be either a double or a queen swag or a single swag. It doesn't really matter, but they're going to have obviously these 2 flaps. It's pretty much the generic design that comes with every swag on the market these days. So with these flaps, there is a correct way to roll them up. So if you're like me, when you first bought the swag, you would have rolled it up the first way that I'm going to show you in the video, which is completely wrong, which I didn't realize till about 3 weeks ago when I watched this video. And I was watching the guy, and he was sort of rolling up his swag, and I'm like, that is such a better way of rolling it up. And since then, I've now obviously done this method. So you'll see in this part of the video where I've done it correctly. So essentially, you're folding both sides in, and then you sort of pinch it in the middle with your finger, and then you just roll it up. It takes half the time. You don't get that issue with like one side being loose and one side being taut, and you sort of got to jump between the two. And it's a much better way of rolling up your swag. So hot tip number 3 of rolling these sides up and making them nice and taut is, do the fold-in method with the roll up in the middle. So it's come the time when you're about to pack it all down, and you need to put all the swag back in the bag. And unfortunately, it's the worst time about camping, because unfortunately that means the camping trip is over. So one little tip that I'll give you is, generally when you buy a swag, depending on the swag manufacturer, they're going to put all the poles and these end poles and the middle pole in the bag itself as a separate bag. Now, this will lead you to believe that you should probably chuck it in that bag all the time. But unfortunately, if you put all those poles in the bag, you've only essentially got the canvas to protect these fiberglass poles. And if you know anything about these fiberglass poles and swags, is they tend to break. They are strong, but they can like snap and fracture, and it causes nothing but dramas. So what I do is, when I'm rolling up the swag itself, so you obviously pull it all down and get it all opened up and the rest of it, so air can get out. And then what I do is I put the poles down the end that I'm going to start rolling on, and the actual poles go inside the swag itself, because then you've got the entire swag to protect it. So depending where you put your swag on your car, if that's on the rooftop, if that's on the back or something like that, you might get a branch or something like that, obviously hit the swag. I know when I came in here, the entry was extremely tight. So if, one wrong branch hit that swag, it might have hit the poles inside, done some damage. And it's just another way to protect your poles and that kind of thing. And then obviously once you unroll it, all the poles are pretty much sitting there in the swag itself, and you can set it up nice and easy. So yeah, tip number 4 is, when you're packing down, and unfortunately it's the worst part about camp, put all your poles inside the swag, and you'll thank me later, because literally all you need to do is chuck your swag in the bag, and you're ready to rock and roll. So tip number 5 is swag and the elements. So what I would recommend is getting yourself an awning. Now, you don't have to get like a big 180 Outback Sapphire awning that I've got here. You can get yourself a 3x3 with some walls. And the reason I recommend an awning is, first off, these swags, as good as they are, every swag is going to get wet if it's in the downpour. If you're in the rain and it's downpouring, and let's say you get 10 mil, that swag, unfortunately, is going to leak. Canvas can only take so much, and eventually it will start leaking. Now, it's going to take, like this Ranger swag, will take a long time to let water in. I've actually slept in essentially downpours, and I've never had an issue with this particular swag myself. But there are swags out there on the market that are a little bit cheaper than this, and they probably will leak. So my advice would be spend about $100 and slap an awning on the side of your car. So first off, it's going to give you protection in the shade. You can use it down the beach, so there's benefits there. But when you're camping and there is a big downpour, you've obviously got protection. So it's going to add a layer of protection to the swag. Now, if you don't want to have like an awning hanging off the car all the time, I appreciate that. Some people don't want that with their setups. Get yourself a bit of tarp and obviously run it down the side of the car. So if you've got a roof rack, you can run it down the side of the car. Most cars these days have those roof bars, so you can obviously run it off that. But it's just going to give you an added layer of protection from the elements. And as I said, no one wants to wake up in the middle of the night when it's pissing down with rain, and unfortunately, you need to really think about what you're going to do because your swag is leaking and you are getting wet, and you're going to have to dry it out when you get home, and all that other stuff that comes with having wet camping gear. So, as I said, tip number 5, get yourself a tarp or an awning or something to give you some protection, and you'll never look back when having a swag underneath because you'll be always nice and dry. And as I said, having the stretcher is going to get you off the ground. So even if water pools here, because obviously there's a lot of water that obviously pooled here overnight, so that water is going to run off. But if your swag is on the ground, water will get underneath your swag and make it again very wet and very cold and all the rest of it. So yep, get yourself an awning and you won't look back. Bonus tip, lightning round. First off, use your swag bag as a welcome mat. It really keeps all the dirt and that kind of stuff out. You can take your shoes off here. If you're on the beach, it's even better as well because it doesn't track all the sand into your swag. Tip number 2 for the bonus round is the Ranger swag comes with these glow-in-the-dark guide ropes. Really cool for the middle of the night so you don't trip on them. And also it comes with these glow-in-the-dark tags. Now you can buy these obviously from most camping stores. The Ranger again comes with them from factory, and they glow in the dark in the middle of the night so you can see where your zipper is in the middle of the night. Bonus tip number 3 for the drinkers out there: if you have had a swag and you've woken up in the morning and you are hungover, the awning is going to be your best friend on a beach. Now the reason I say this is because it's going to keep you cool. The shade from this will keep you right out of the blistering sun in the first thing in the morning, and packing up your swag will be a lot easier. And my last bonus tip for this video: when you're packing up your swag, keep the sides open, keep this side open, and keep that side open. When you're rolling it up, all the air can escape. Nothing worse than having a swag first thing in the morning and you're rolling it up and it turns into a massive air pocket, and then you obviously got to release all that air. It's going to make your life a lot easier when you're packing it up and make your camping experience a whole lot better. Cheers. And there you have it, my 5 top tips for owning a swag and getting the best out of these guys. They can be an absolutely awesome thing to sleep in if they're set up correctly. So, if you've got any ideas yourself, please chuck them in the comments section. I'd love to hear them. All the other campers out there would love to see them as well. And as always, thank you so much for watching. All the new subscribers, thank you so much for coming back. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do. Chuck a subscribe on there, hit a like button. And even if you can share it to your friends, that would be so beneficial for the channel, and I would appreciate it. Thank you so much. As always, if I don't see you out there in the truck and trails, I might see you in the next video. If I don't see you in the next video, I shall see you later. Have a great day, and bye.